Good morning, YouTube. This is Los Angeles Prepper here. Been busy with school, mostly school. I was gonna say busy with life, but life is school, so busy with school as of late. But decided to make an original video. I was looking at some analytics, and I saw that too small of a fraction of my viewers are women right now. I don't know if that's ever going to get to 50%, but I think right now it's like at 13%. So today I'm going to talk about things you can do to get your SO significant other into prepping. Am I talking mostly about girlfriends and wives? Well, according to YouTube, 87% of the people that watch my videos are guys. So I'm talking to 87% men and 13% female. But these lists have nothing to do with whether or not you're a man or a woman or your orientation or anything like that. They just have to do with sort of how I look at interacting with people and trying to inspire people, even if it's your SO, rather than trying to manage them like you're their boss or commanding officer, for example. So, without further ado, 5 ways to get your spouse into prepping. Number 1, don't demand that they, commit to the same extent as you. Not even like as a long-term goal. You have to sort of start off slow, obviously, but if you're trying to get them into prepping, like, don't just start by having them like shadow you for every prepping activity that you do. Like, showing your girlfriend how to sharpen a knife versus having her sit with you for an hour while you sharpen knives, not the same thing. Taking her to the shooting range versus making her go to the shooting range like every time you go, not the same thing. So use kind of common sense and just sort of, the more you kind of let your SO decide if it's something that they're interested in, I think the more open they will be to it, and the more you kind of try to like force it upon their way of life or your way of life, especially if you're living together. You're probably just going to get more resistance just because that's how people are, most people anyways. And even if they're not, even if your SO is, the quiet type, do you really want them to be doing stuff that they don't want to be doing, So number 2, focus on their strengths. Hopefully you found someone in life that has some strengths to offer to the relationship. And of course, when people think of prepping, they always think of, firearms and outdoor stuff and things of that nature. But being self-sufficient is an all-encompassing thing. It's not just home defense. It's not just cooking. It's not just having enough things stored or being able to fix things or having power. It's not any one thing. It's everything. It's truly everything. So whatever strengths your SO has, try to sort of play to that. If your SO is really crafty, see if they have any interest in like making, people spend a lot of money on like these little bags for fire kits and first aid kits and trauma kits, and maybe your SO can sew or is really good with thread and cloth and stuff like that, and can make you some cool little bags or some little holders and things like that. It's just an example. If your SO is really into cooking, maybe you can like see if there's an interest in getting into stuff like canning or dehydrating food, just kind of like an extension on a skill that your SO might already spend a lot of time doing. And, you can kind of double up on activities that I would definitely encourage you to kind of look at activities that are quote unquote more part of normal life than sort of like only focused on prepping. For example, storing food long term. That's something that is a part of a lot of people's normal life and not just, people that are preppers. Or being physically fit is part of a lot of people's normal healthy life, but it also happens to have real benefits in the event of emergency. So focus on your SO's strengths. Number 3, When you're talking about prepping with your SO, I don't know how you talk with your, what your beliefs are about prepping or how you talk with people around you about it, but I would definitely focus more on, the sort of practical benefits more than the kind of fear mongering aspect. Um, so when you're talking about like having a few weeks or months of water and food, you can point to examples like even as sort of uncommon as they might be, like Puerto Rico. Maybe you don't live on an island, but nevertheless, even if you're not in a secluded area, it's always possible that you have a disruption, at least for a few days, if not a week. Being in a civilized area and being without power a week, it's not that unheard of in an emergency. Being without power for months in a more, I don't mean civilized, but I mean, more connected area that's less isolated. Puerto Rico being an island turned out to be really rough because, you got to fly and ship everything in there. So, but yeah, focus on just things like being more self sufficient, disaster preparedness, not necessarily, end of the world civil war riots and that kind of thing that preppers sort of tend to sort of focus on extreme things like that. Even rising food prices, if you start freezing more stuff or dehydrating more stuff, I don't know about you, but I haven't seen most grocery prices go down. I'm seeing, you know, meats go way up. Some snacks and things like that are staying moderately priced, but I'm seeing a lot of prices go up. So even if you're just buying things, that you're going to consume later. And, lastly, on practical benefits, a lot of values that preppers have as far as being frugal, trying to, be active and productive in their life, are good ways to live just in general. And you don't have to be all about the zombie apocalypse to benefit from being prepared a little bit. So that's what I would kind of talk about as far as number 3. Number 4, make it fun. Prepping should be fun. And when I say prepping, a lot of sort of a difference between like prepping forever or working towards self-sufficiency versus getting to a certain amount of preparedness and then not worrying about it anymore. My own personal benchmark for that is something like living on some land, having a modest amount of income, owning the land, being mostly off grid. Maybe I pay for internet or stuff, and maybe I have a connection to city water, but I also have water storage or something on site to where I'm not dependent on that. Maybe I don't power my whole house with solar, but maybe I have enough solar that if shit hit the fan, I would make it. So not necessarily 100% off grid, but at least mostly, if not completely, self-sufficient, somewhere around that benchmark. Um, then I would focus on, I don't know, traveling the world and doing stuff like that. But until I get to that point, I'm going to focus on buying some land. That's where my head's at these days. Getting a job, buying some land, finishing my degree, getting some chickens, making a chicken tractor and all that stuff. So number 4, make it fun. Take trips. Consider like gifts and things related to prepping. Like, I don't know if your SO, reads a lot of Hunger Games. Consider getting them a bow and arrow or something. Or classes, even stuff like CERT for community stuff, CPR, ham radio classes. I don't know what your SO is into, but even if it's craft classes, how to sew or how to cooking classes, whatever classes you can do to develop your skills, even if you're taking a class more designed towards, normal quote unquote life when shit hasn't hit the fan, it doesn't mean that growing as a person isn't going to sort of benefit you in the long run. I always think growth as a person is a positive thing. Yeah, all skills might not be applicable to the future. If I'm learning how to program something in MATLAB, is that going to make me a better prepper when we don't have power? I don't know about that. But anyways, number 4, make it fun. Number 5, be patient. It takes time, and it's not really about trying to change people. I don't look at it as like trying to make your spouse into a prepper. I look at it as trying to at least get your SO enthusiastic enough about it so that, if you have like 100 units of time in any given week, if you're spending 30 to 40 units of that time doing prepping, that at least your SO might be comfortable spending, I don't know, a quarter of that time, a third of that time, a half of that time, a chunk of that time, doing some of that activity with you. Dehydrating food might not be like the most romantic thing to do with your significant other, but sometimes it can be hard in relationships to find stuff that you both want to do, that you both enjoy doing. You might have really different recreations. You might like doing different stuff, watching different stuff, spending your time following different things. So it can definitely be nice to have sort of like a couple baseline activities that you both enjoy, like hiking or camping and stuff like that, so that, no matter what's going on in life, in your relationship, that you always have like a couple things to fall back on to just spend time doing with, someone hopefully you enjoy spending most of your time with. So that is my video on 5 ways to sort of encourage your significant other to spend time with you doing some prepping activities. Definitely, don't have to turn your boyfriend or girlfriend or wife or husband into a prepper overnight. But if you're really into prepping, it can definitely help not just get more prepared, but it can help strengthen your relationship if you and your significant other can sort of see eye to eye on how it can benefit you, but how it doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be everything, doesn't have to be all of your life. So like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.